And 3 years ago, you had 10 customers, more or less, obviously. How many of them have you got right now, if you can share?
In the many hundreds.
Many hundreds.
Yeah.
Nice growth.
And it spans from the ENR top 10 all the way down to.
Can you tell us how you guys price the? Obviously, you don't have to give figures away, but like, is it like based on revenue, based on project, based on the ROI? You mentioned a lot is like $600 per hour. Maybe some comparisons to that.
You're getting us at the perfect time, Owen. So traditionally, like all the conventional software companies and all the conventional investors that are out there, we were a SaaS model. If you were using us just for the back office, it was really more correlated to like a seat and volume kind of based like model. As we transition further into projects, we are pricing.
How did you figure out the best way of designing the product so that the users are using it that they want to use it, rather than, oh, this is another technology that we have to use? And yeah, that's like a.
I'll let Trent give like his more technical answer, but this is, again, I started this call talking about how important it was to find really a partner here in the business, Trent and team, who's had experience building for our industry before. Like, this is something we don't talk enough about, but as Martin, you're asking, I know, a question that's so near and dear to Trent's heart. Here's what I will say to you. We have literally established the very best team that I could ever imagine. It's a dream team. I know we're in the Olympics right now. It's a dream team of construction technologists that have built product for the exact persona base that is using our product.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks and Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
This episode is brought to you by Build Vision, transforming construction supply chain by bringing contractors, manufacturers, and stakeholders onto a single software platform. Visit buildvision.io to find out more.
Hey everyone, this episode forms part of a series where we dive into the world of AI and documentation management. If you want to go even deeper, head over to bricks-bytes.com/downloads to download our extensive report. In the report, we cover a comprehensive analysis of the AI construction technology landscape, including detailed profiles of 5 leading companies. We break down their business models, growth, and unique technological approaches, essential intelligence for understanding where the market is headed and identifying potential investment opportunities. We explore an actionable framework for evaluating AI solutions, specifically distinguishing between true innovators and wrappers. This helps you assess which companies are developing defensible technology versus those simply repackaging existing solutions, crucial insight for making informed investment or partnership decisions. We also look at real implementation case studies and ROI metrics from enterprise customers, including how companies like Gilbane are saving substantial sums per month in rework costs, and how others are achieving 80 to 90% time savings in contract review processes. These concrete examples help validate market potential and scalability. The report is particularly valuable for corporate venture teams, innovation teams, and construction project teams looking to understand where the real opportunities lie in construction AI. If you want to download the report, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com/downloads. But now for the episode. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Josh and Trent from Document Crunch, thank you for joining us. Josh is the second time appearance on Bricks and Bytes, which I suppose is kind of a good thing.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Yeah, it's good to be back with you, Owen.
Thank you. And yeah, so guys, could you just start? Josh, you introduce yourself, and then Trent, if you could introduce yourself too, and then we'll dive into Document Crunch.
Absolutely. So I'm Josh Levy. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Document Crunch. This is my first company that I've founded, but I come to this really with, just being deeply inspired by the problems that we're solving for at Document Crunch, having spent my entire career in the construction industry. I was a construction management major, was a construction attorney for over a decade, both at an outside law firm in the US here, but also running a couple of legal departments for large contractors. And so, yeah, at some point, a little over 5 years ago now, I just said it's enough already. It's enough with all this pain around the construction contract and the lack of compliance with not just the contract, but other documents as well, that all are contract documents. And that was really the inspiration of why Document Crunch exists. And 5.5 years later, it seems like, the industry has agreed this is a big problem to solve. And so I needed to start building a big company, which leads directly to this other guy who you'll have introduce himself in a second. We've taken, kind of that inspiration and maybe knowledge that I had around the problem, but we've built a world-class software company around it. And really the credit to that goes to Trent. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Awesome.
Ben?
Well, my name is Trent Miskelly. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Document Crunch. I have been building products in the construction technology space for over 15 years. My background was in computer science. I was early on to the machine learning world before there was really the world of ChatGPT and everything came out. So rather than focus myself on research, I decided to go out and start building some companies. My first construction technology focused company was a company called Assemble Systems, which is now part of Autodesk. It was really one of the first companies focused on extracting information from building information models for different things like cost estimation and scheduling. And so happy to see that living on. And when we exited that to Autodesk. And then after that, went on to oversee the product division for a company called JB Knowledge, where I oversaw their bid management solutions and subcontractor prequalification solutions, and helped exit that company to Construct Connect, where I was, I say, for about a year overseeing the general contractor group there, and decided I wanted to get back to early stage companies. And so started working with some other early stage companies, really advising on business and product strategy, and got introduced to Josh through some mutual colleagues at Procore. They said, "Hey, there's some guys out there that are working on a really interesting problem and trying to help reduce risk on construction projects, and but they've never built a software company before, so we'd love for you guys to talk to them." So we got to know each other for about a year, and then I started working with Josh to raise their seed round, and he said, "We need a leadership team, and I would love for you guys to join." So myself, our head of product, our head of one of our engineering leaders, and our head of AI all jumped on the Document Crunch bandwagon, and we've been rolling ever since, and excited to be talking to you guys today.
And just to put things in perspective, right? So Trent and I have now been together for a little over 3 years. And yeah, I mean, like you think about this, so a little over 3 years ago when we were introduced, I think we had like 3 employees. We probably had, 10, maybe 15 customers at the time. We were still super, super early, but now you really have the yin to my yang here, as Trent likes to say. He comes just with so much operational and technology expertise for building just great products that our industry, not only great products, but great products that have become very usable by our industry, which is, I think, super important, because our industry is different. And I don't care what anybody says, our industry is different on a lot of levels, and certainly in the way they buy and consume technology, that is the case. But fast forward 3 years later, a little over 3 years later, and like this company is just a completely different beast. And I'd like to say that my mom would tell you what a great idea Document Crunch was, and how proud she is of me and maybe my co-founders in this. But the reality is that like there's a lot of hard work that goes into building a great company. And I could not be here without Trent, which is why I wanted him on here. Because if you want to look into Document Crunch, I mean, again, you've got the yin and the yang here, and so it's been a hell of a run, and most importantly, just grounded in just an incredible relationship between Trent and I. I mean, we're very different. Yin and yang is the best way I would describe it, but that relationship, frankly, is the foundation for how Document Crunch has come to grow so well. Because culturally, people see our dynamic, our relationship, and they know if you're at Document Crunch, if you're a cruncher, you're going to be someone who's warm-hearted. You're going to be someone who's inspired. You're going to be someone who's growth-minded. You're not going to be afraid to speak up. You're not going to be afraid to, be yourself. And that foundation of trust and relationship that we have has really been amplified across the entire company now. As we're well over 50 employees at the time that we're recording this, and who knows, by the time you publish it, maybe we'll be at 70. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of the backstory there, or the origin story, if you will.
Okay.
Brilliant. So, Josh, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what Document Crunch is and what problem is it solving?
Yeah. So Document Crunch is really an evolving beast. But at the end of the day, like, what Document Crunch is really doing is, I would say that we are a document intelligence and automation platform that is allowing our industry to achieve best practices around contract compliance. And that's a mouthful. And that's probably something you've never heard anyone say before, because candidly, we've created this category here. And I know we fit into this broader lens of document management that you all are talking about. But at the end of the day, Martin, I think about what document management means and what's going on in the AI world. And think about this, at the highest level, anyone can query ChatGPT or some of these other ChatGPT wrappers, which may be out there right now, where, people are just putting this, search function or query function on top of a database or a set of documents. And, that checks a lot of boxes. But imagine that what we've been building at Document Crunch, the very beginning, is not while you can certainly query in Document Crunch, we're much more focused on pushing relevant insights and informations to the industry throughout workflows that it goes through, whether it's bidding a job or negotiating a contract, but really administering that job or that contract, and all the things that come with what that means throughout the entire project lifecycle.
Just a quick pause. If you're finding this valuable, we've got a comprehensive report that dives even deeper into AI in construction documentation management. From market analysis of leading startups to real ROI metrics from enterprise implementations, is your guide to understanding the AI construction documentation management landscape. Download it at www.bricks-bytes.com/downloads. Now back to the show.
So when you talk about where Document Crunch is at, where we started really was document intelligence, right? We were really good at breaking down a construction contract. And think about, when I say document intelligence, to put this in maybe in layman's terms for folks, I think about when you were looking at a construction contract 3.5 years ago in Document Crunch, we would hand you a map, like an old school map, and say okay, we're going to help contextualize what you're looking at. There's some static information. You should be aware of these issues. We've kind of mapped them out for you, and you can, understand where you're going, like a static map. What we've quickly gotten into is not just intelligence, but automation. And so think about now that we've taken that map and we've turned it into a GPS Google Maps, where now we are in real time dynamically guiding you through not just the documents themselves, but the jobs that you may need to do around those documents. So you think about, what we're doing in construction with the contract, because I'll speak to that because it's public and customers are buying it and using it every day. We've essentially almost automated the entire review for risk of a construction contract. I mean, I don't want to say, I don't think we'll ever automate 100% of it. So let's just say, for, rough numbers, between 80 and 90% of that has now been automated by us, which is, frankly, a smashing success, and what a lot of the industry knows about us, and what, when you see our customers being really happy, it's around that. But what's also taking off like wildfire is we've now also automated the generation of a playbook for project teams. So let me back up, because we're now in this Google Maps world. where we're doing more dynamic automation. So imagine this, like we know, Trent and I know, our company knows 5 best practices to be true around contract compliance. Step number 1, you should understand the contract before you bid the contract. Step number 2, I know you're laughing, Owen, but like, candidly, this was the problem that I stepped out to solve for, which we validated. Like, so much of the industry doesn't. Step number 2, you should make sure that then you negotiate that contract in accordance with like your own internal risk profile or whatever like standards you adhere to. Okay. And so that's what we're known for, right? That's like the core document intelligence around construction contracts. Like that's like what the whole industry knows us as. But now I'm going to tell you about steps 3, 4, and 5, which is where we find ourselves, where we are just like quickly exploding across thousands of projects here in the US. Step number 3, you should arm the project team with insights about the contract at project kickoff. Like that's the best practice. It's not just about all the legal crap that you had to negotiate, but the team has to administer that contract if it's going to be successful. 50% of projects in the world, $13 trillion industry, 50% of projects are finishing late or over budget. And what that means is 50% of the time, a stakeholder, a contractor, a general contractor, an architect, an owner, a subcontractor, a supplier, 50% of the time, one or more of those stakeholders is going to have to pay more money than they thought they were when they signed up to do that contract, when they did that project. And we're called contractors. It's only related to 2 things. What does the contract say? So that's steps 1 and 2. But also importantly, like how did the team administer the contract? You could have paid me a lot of money, many pounds per hour, to use your currency, to negotiate a good contract for you back in the day. But if the team then doesn't know how to ask or doesn't know how to call the right plays off of it, you could win that sweepstakes of having to pay more than you thought you were. So you've got to arm that project team. That's number 3. Number 4, guess what? Lawyers like me don't live in the job trailer. And I know there's a lot of search tools out there and people can search, but like, I don't believe that that's enough. Having been on billions of dollars of projects and hundreds of millions of dollars of claims, you have to bring that contract proactively in all the contract documents to provide relevant insights to the project team during the course of construction. Lawyers like me don't live in the trailer. So step 4 is how do you start pushing relevant insights just in time into workflows for project teams? And then similarly, step number 5 is how do you start automating some of those workflows altogether? And so those are the 5 best practices. Understand what's in your contract before you bid it, negotiate the contract the right way, arm the project team with the relevant insights before you kick up the job, allow the team to get access to those insights, have that angel over their shoulder during the course of construction, and 5, automate workflows that are risky for the industry. And so when you ask what we're solving for, it's we're allowing the industry to achieve those 5 best practices. And we're also helping the industry headquarters at those industries have peace of mind that those best practices are actually being instilled. So that's what we're doing at Document Crunch. And when I say a, document intelligence and automation platform that allows for contract compliance, that's what we're doing at Document Crunch.
Very good. Josh, you mentioned that you were head of, I'm butchering the description here, but your past, you were head of the legal or team at a large contractor beforehand. So I'm guessing this is where this frustration stems from, which led to the inception of Document Crunch, right?
Well, that's right. So just to put a finer point on it. So I started my career as an outside lawyer. I ended up going in-house with an E&R top 20 contractor, ended up taking over the regional legal department of that contractor, and then worked with actually another UK-based EPC contractor and engineering firm where I actually ended up running their commercial contracting function, which is very similar to what we would call legal department here in the US. Anyway, in those experiences, yes, that's where I became frustrated with this. And the frustration was 2-pronged. In the big companies like I was sitting at, I was doing a lot of that negotiation and understanding the contract before you bid it, steps 1 and 2. Gosh, were my team and I being paid a lot of money to do that work. But I was doing that work, but it didn't matter. Guess what? The folks in the field still were not being properly armed with insights. And that's where fee erosion and claims come from. And so even at the biggest companies, like that wasn't working for the people in the field. But then more importantly, the vast majority of the construction industry doesn't have in-house resources like me. So they were as exposed in the back office in steps 1 and 2, understanding what's in their contract, and making sure that they're negotiating fair contracts. So this is like a global problem for the entire industry. And it's a really big problem. And I think you'll see there's a lot of platforms out there, products out there that are maybe solving a step. You know, go back to that, like, how do you make the contract available during construction? I'm going to come back to it. Well, you got ChatGPT and a bunch of like GPT wrappers out there that are, you know, you can query and ask questions and all that. But like, that's like one part of it. Like, this is a much broader problem that spans across the entire project lifecycle. And the real challenge that we're solving for is ensuring from soup to nuts that best practices are being instilled to prevent risk.
Mm-hmm. Is Document Crunch right now focusing on those 5 points kind of simultaneously, or are you paying too much more attention into one of those particular? And if yes, is there any like technical difficulty? Why so, or not really?
Yeah. So steps 1 and 2, right? That back office use case around bidding and negotiation. That is what we're known for, right, Martin? That's the most mature like expression of our product. And so I would say that there, we're going to continue to invest, but where we're really building out now is our functionality around steps 3, 4, and 5, which is really geared toward project team workflows and project team enablement. And that's something we've been working at since late 2023. And so we've really just like GA'd or released for general availability the first suite of product features around enablement of those project teams. And again, I just can't emphasize to you, that's always where our vision has been. And I can't emphasize to you how fast that's growing. So that's going to quickly become a bigger, I'd say, business for us than that core use case. And so, no, we're focused on all 5. But yes, there's varying degrees of, I would say, depth of product across those 5 areas. And if Trent and his team could just move faster, you know, we'd have a lot of depth in all of that. those damn engineering,
Trent.
damn engineering folks just can't build fast enough for me, you know. So anyway, but no, we've got product that's commercial out across those five areas.
Sure. Okay. Josh, could you just tell us, so a customer before they start with Document Crunch, and then perhaps what the process is after they start using you guys, like paint the picture.
You know, and I'm happy to paint a picture. I'd also challenge you all as you launch this, go out and check out some of what the industry is saying. I mean, I actually just posted something today. I'll pull it up and read it because I woke up this morning to a customer talking about Document Crunch online, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is unbelievable. But the ROI is immense to what we're doing. That's the best way I would say it. I mean, I'll paint some ROI that we've heard. I mean, you know, some folks are saying that because of our automation of this contract review, which tends to be a pretty lengthy, complex process, that we're, you know, saving 80 to 90% of their time or resources to do that. I mean, I don't want to, I mean, I'm happy to quote it for you, but you all could, again, do some market research and understand what that translates to in dollars. But the things that I'm more excited about are, you know, again, I'm just going to read you, you know, something that I read this morning, but let's see here. So Document Crunch is helping my team of project managers better understand clauses a great deal better, as well as streamlining our redlining process. That's one. Another one from the other day said, Document Crunch is actually improving our relations with our customers. This is a general contractor because our team is more prepared and understands better what's in their contract. Another one that I recently saw was, and this is huge when you talk about number 3, you should enable project teams to understand what's in their contracts. A major top ENR, top 15 contractor who, you know, has rolled us out on hundreds of projects has estimated that their read rate for project managers has gone up from a dismal 10% to now upwards of 90%. Why is that important? Why is it important that 90% of their project teams are now understanding what's in their contract? Because that's how you prevent claims. And you know what? I am qualified to make that statement. That's how you prevent claims. We'll be running a science data study on this one day, but I'll just share with you, having literally spent a decade litigating. Do you know what there's a correlation to? Teams understanding what's in their contract and shit not going wrong. I hope that wasn't a terrible word to say on this podcast.
You're good.
There's a direct correlation to that being the case. And so when we know that we're now going to E&R top 15 contractors and increasing the read rate for their project managers and able to start showing them actually tangible evidence that we're increasing that read rate, because we don't just make it easier to obtain the best standards, but we're actually tracking and helping folks know that those best standards are actually being instilled across these different, areas. That is what I'm most proud of. So I'd be happy to talk to you about the direct ROI of all the time savings. But really what we're doing is we've essentially handed the industry a hard hat to wear around their contracts. And we know why that was important when we made safety a priority in our industry. We're making contracting safe for our industry across the entire project lifecycle. That's where we're going to move the needle. That's not going to happen from ChatGPT. That's not going to happen from just some solution that's only geared toward lawyers or back office professionals. That's going to happen when you achieve best practices across those 5 areas that we at Document Crunch know to be true. We hold them to be self-evident, and that we're laser focused on instilling across the entire project lifecycle. And that's why what we're doing is important.
Ooh. So ideal customer are companies from ENR 100 or 400, or also smaller companies, would you say?
I would say that in the very small companies, and we really have a wide range. I mean, candidly, Martin, the whole industry needs our product. And so
you said 3 years ago you had 10 customers, more or less, obviously. How many of them have you got right now, if you can share?
In the many hundreds.
Many hundreds.
Yeah.
Nice growth.
And it spans from the ENR top 10 all the way down to small businesses. So I would say that the small businesses that are using us are more of the mind of like, hey, look, we don't want to pay a lawyer $600 an hour to protect our ass when we're bidding jobs, even if they can't negotiate the jobs. They need to understand what's in the contract so that they can plan and mitigate. Because again, that's like, I'm going to use industry terms. I know I said maps before. That's like putting fireproofing around a project. Like if there's a fire, you want to make sure that you have some protection. That's negotiating the jobs, right? So those are the small ones. But once you get to like the middle market and up, and we consider the middle market contractors that are, call it like 75 million and up, all the way up to the ENR top, 400, you need to start putting fire extinguishers in the job trailer. Not just fireproofing, but fire extinguishers. And ultimately, and we won't go too deep into it today because you'll have to have us on in about 6 months from now. What we're really also doing behind it is installing smoke detectors. So you got fireproofing, you got fire extinguishers, and then we're installing smoke detectors so that we can go beep, 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 beep when we know that something bad is happening, because we understand how all these documents all relate to each other. Or better yet, I talked about, the map. Now we got Google Maps, or the third horizon. The smoke detector is like, when your airbags deploy, or when you can just push a button in your car and dial 911, or when we'll go beep, beep, beep when you're driving off the road and wake you up. And that's what we're really focused on, getting very proactive to start pushing folks to stay on the right course so that bad things don't happen.
Very good. Josh, can you tell us how you guys price obviously you don't have to give figures away, but like, is it like based on revenue, based on project, based on the ROI? You mentioned a lawyer is like $600 per hour, maybe some comparisons to that.
You're getting us at the perfect time, Owen. So traditionally, like all the conventional software companies and all the conventional investors that are out there, we were a SaaS model. If you were using us just for the back office, it was really more correlated to like a seat and volume kind of based like model. As we transition further into projects, we are pricing on a per project basis. But I think, like, to use an industry term, let's look at what that schedule of values looks like when we think of your project basis. We are automating jobs to be done for this industry. We are automating your ability to achieve best practices. And so Document Crunch is starting to shift to a price point that is not based on revenue, that is not based on seats, but is based on the types of jobs to be done that we are automating and what that means. Now, there's some indirect things, right? We can't exactly price the fact that you are safer using Document Crunch yet. We cannot price yet that it is invaluable to have your teams educated. We cannot price yet the direct value of having a standardized and consistent process. So there is some indirect pricing that goes into some of those best practices, but you better damn well believe that we could start backing into what it would cost you to review a construction contract for risk, or what it would cost you to have, a lawyer on your job site or a contracts professional on your job site every day. And we're starting to price the work that we're automating for the project teams and the back office. And so you'll start to see us being much more direct in the correlation of our pricing to the value. But we still believe that the project is the best place to carry that budget, because why? Projects are the lifeblood of our industry, right? The P&L of a construction company ultimately is based upon the aggregate P&L of its projects. And so we want the projects to carry like the budget for this. And so we're very focused on working, kind of on a project basis, but as a build up or a schedule of values related to the jobs that we're automating or the value that we're providing for the jobs to be done.
And it would be still at the rate of, let's say, 10% of, or 20% of the cost of traditional delivery of the service.
Yeah, yes. I mean, there's a varying range, Martin, I think, but we're looking at somewhere between, I'd say, 10 to maybe 30% of the cost of like the traditional service. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Look, I mean, I'll be very intellectually honest with you all. It's still early days, right? There's a movement now that's going toward this mindset. And candidly, Trent and I have been debating this for over a year now, but like to us, as we're seeing the feedback that we're getting, it's a no-brainer. Like we are really automating jobs to be done, and there's real value to that. And rather than arbitrarily say, oh, your revenue is X, so we have to charge you Y, it's more, it's flexible. A customer may come to us and say, I really don't need that back office review part of what you're doing because I've got these great lawyers. Well, fine. But here's some of the other schedule of values that we could build into, your per project pricing as well. And so that's what it's about.
I would also guess that selling to a ENR 10 and smaller contractor is completely different things, and also the products and services they use are also different, right? Can you maybe say something about that? How do you differentiate your value proposition towards smaller contractor and to a larger one, or maybe there's no difference?
No, that's kind of what I'm getting at, Martin. I don't think there's much of a difference. It's just how broad of a platform do they want to adopt across those 5 best practices versus, maybe a more like one of our modules being used more narrowly. So like, again, I'm gonna make an overstatement, but you get to the SMBs, the small businesses. Oftentimes that back office professional, that man or woman who is in charge of reviewing the contract for risk, then they put on their hard hat and they go out and they run the job. You could see there not being as much of a need to educate the project teams when you've already educated the person in the back office, and then that person is the same as a project team. So maybe the person in the small business doesn't have the need for steps 3, 4, and 5 of document crunch, but the bigger the company, the broader and more horizontal the span of best practices that you would be wise to adopt if you don't want to leave yourself unsafe or frankly negligent when it comes to adopting best practices around contract compliance.
Cool. Trent, I would like to bring you into this discussion now. So could you we don't have to go, and we definitely won't have enough time to go into every single feature of your product, but I guess one interesting point is to sort of focus on where the product was, where it is now, and perhaps where it is going. I mean, Josh just touched on a few of the points earlier with the 5-point. I don't know if you have a name for that framework, Josh, but the 5-point process we've been discussing. So over to you, Trent.
Trent, I mean, feel free. We should get these guys the playbook. I mean, that 5-point process, we literally have now, it's a published playbook. We call it our playbook or our blueprint, frankly,
nice.
for contract compliance. But I'll let Trent kind of walk you through a little bit more of the feature sets.
Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, I think you've heard from Josh. I mean, clearly we have founder market fit. My job is to get us to product market fit. A big focus of mine when we came in was really how do we leverage AI to help with a lot of the automation of the review process. And at that time, this was pre-ChatGPT and OpenAI kind of transforming the world of AI for us. And we continue to build purpose-built models for the construction industry to extract key information about risk from contract documents. And that's going to always be a piece of our secret sauce. I mean, that requires a ton of work and training to ensure a high degree of accuracy when we're breaking really these unstructured documents into structured information. And as Josh mentioned, document intelligence. And that really set us up for this larger compliance story. At the time, we didn't really think of it as compliance. We were really focused on just automating that review process. I mean, we consider that a big task, or as Josh said, job to be done. But we knew that we wanted to get deeper in with the project teams, and we hadn't really come up with it at the time a way of really describing what we were trying to accomplish. But ultimately, we arrived at understanding that we really were driving like proper contract administration and proper contract compliance throughout the project cycle. So really getting out of the back office and then to the operations teams and then to the field teams became really a key component of what we were trying to accomplish. And when ChatGPT landed in the world, I told Josh, I was like, well, I think a volcano just erupted by our heads, and either we can choose to take advantage of this moment or we can let the lava overroll us. But no matter what, I knew that we were really seeing a transformation of our roadmap, that there was a way for us now to leverage AI in an entirely different way to help bring that compliance story to reality. And what do I mean by that? Prior to ChatGPT, like I said, we were focused on building these purpose-built models to extract key information from these documents. And really what the whole large language model movement and generative AI really did for us, what allows us now to communicate in a way that project teams can understand what's in these gnarly documents, legal speak, but really going beyond that, now into documents that, they're effectively required to understand, like specifications, scopes of work. How can we now translate all of this knowledge and bring it to a project team in a way that really suits them and really gives them the right information at the right time? And so we now leverage generative AI in a variety of different capabilities, such as retrieval augmented generation (RAG), which is becoming very popular in the world of AI. But we believe ultimately, all of these technologies are just commodities that we can put together, kind of building blocks, if you will, to deliver high value. So it still boils down to us truly understanding and taking that construction mindset and translating this information in a way that our customers will understand, and they can automate more of the tasks that they're doing on a daily basis and really get back to building. I mean, that's the key. So the next level for us, as Josh has alluded to, is how do we take that playbook and enable operations teams to kick off projects in a successful way. And so that's leveraging generative AI to basically take all these contract documents that we understand and broken apart and automatically generate those playbooks, like literally communicate in a way to project manager or superintendent or all those different folks on the project that need to understand the contracts would understand. And then the next piece after that is the daily decision support for project teams. So you're going to hear us talk a lot more about this. But one, there's the document review side of the world, but then there's I'm in the field and I just need to put my hands on the right information at that time. Some situations coming up, whether it's related to compliance or otherwise, we want to be able to support those project teams when they need those answers the most, and that typically is when they're in the field. So we're going to take all this document intelligence in this world of compliance that we understand so well, and enable operations teams to kind of have an eye on the project, ensuring compliance, and enable the folks out in the field to understand and bring answers to them when they need them, and be able to take on more of the tasks that they're doing that we can more easily automate now through technologies like generative AI and our kind of purpose-built construction knowledge, so we can let builders build.
Very good. I wanted to touch, both of you actually mentioned this a few times. So the steps 3, 4, and 5 is about getting into project teams and working with them, with your software. How did you figure out the best way of designing the product so that the users are using it that they want to use it, rather than, oh, this is another technology that we have to use? And it's like not pleasant for them.
I'll let Trent give his more technical answer, but this is, again, I started this call talking about how important it was to find really a partner here in the business, Trent, and team who's had experience building for our industry before. Like, this is something we don't talk enough about, but as Martin, you're asking, I know, a question that's so near and dear to Trent's heart. Here's what I will say to you. We've literally established the very best team that I could ever imagine. It's a dream team. I know we're in the Olympics right now. It's a dream team of construction technologists that have built product for the exact persona base that is using our product. And so many people are talking about how awesome Document Crunch is every day. And candidly, we haven't reinvented the wheel. Like, this is why I was so fortunate to find Trent and the team that Trent's brought in, because these folks are so dialed in, so empathetic to the type of user interface and experience that our industry needs. This is like a major, major part of why we've been successful. And now I will let Trent explain why, or how he's doing it, because I know he has very strong points of view on how this is quickly evolving. But that is so important. Like, this wasn't some we found machine learning engineers from Silicon Valley and Tesla to go build something. So we're so awesome. No, this is about, we know that our industry is unique. I said that at the beginning. Has a unique way of interacting with software, a unique way of buying software. And we've cobbled together a team that has been at this for years and that has been highly successful in other very, very good products that these same users have used and loved. So I will stop at that is a huge, huge lesson. If you're going to build for this industry, it's not about finding some data scientist from MIT or someone that's been at OpenAI. No, it's about finding people that know how to build for our industry. And so with that being said, probably the most successful technologist leader that I can imagine right now in building for our industry is on with you. And that's why I wanted him to come on and explain more about how he thinks about this and the team that he's put together that is best equipped to do this. World class.
Nice.
For this use.
Trent, you can't let us down now.
Josh has that ability to kind of set you up, so I'll do my best.
He did.
But it is true. I mean, when I first started in the construction technology industry, I didn't know much about construction at all. I knew how to build products, I knew how to build technology, but I didn't really understand the industry. And I mentioned the company Assemble Systems that we started. I approached that company as a founder of that company as building technology rather than building workflows. And there's a big difference between building tools, just another hammer in the toolbox, versus actually building a workflow that accomplishes something, holistically for a team or a company. And I think the real insight that I had in building Assemble was that we were building a tool. Like, it felt like we were just building another tool for the industry, which was offering a lot of value. But it wasn't until I got over and started running bid management solutions that had been built really with this whole workflow in mind. It was a much more mature solution that was really working across teams, right? And bringing in estimation and the bid management team and all these different functional pieces and having the team work together to accomplish an end goal. That really was a game changer for me and just kind of mentally shifting from building something that delivered a particular task, if you will, versus actually completing a workflow. And when I got over to Document Crunch, that was just the mentality that we came in with. I mean, the same head of product that we have here today was the head of product at Assemble, was the head of product at SmartBid, and the same engineering team that came behind those solutions. And so we've learned to have a lot of scar tissue and learning what it means to build a really strong and successful workflow solution. And so this insight, like I mentioned around this bigger compliance story, really came from that. Like, what are we building? Like, we're not building just a document review tool. That's a great tool, right? To be able to look inside of a document and understand risk. But understanding why we were doing it was really the big differentiator. And the reason that we were doing it was all to set up teams to better understand how to administer their contracts. So we realized we really have something here that could help enable an operations team to look across a project portfolio and say, how do I institute best practices for taking this knowledge of documents and risk into the teams that are ultimately the ones that are going to be responsible for that risk. And then how do we enable the people that are in the field that are responsible for that risk and they're responsible for the administration? How do we enable them? And so as we kind of dug deeper, we realized we should be the category like leader and the category really creator of this idea of compliance automation. And it all starts with the contracts, but it doesn't end with that. It ends with the workflows that are required to enable it. And there's all this great technology that is kind of, in some ways, we built up through blood, sweat, and tears, and also in some cases landed in our lap with all these great, generative AI capabilities that we are now able to put together and enable to deliver on this overall workflow, which, as I mentioned, contract compliance and the compliance automation side is really where we see it. So I would say that was the real key insight.
I think that this is really, and it's important. I'm really glad we're talking about this topic. I think this is really the intangible that has made us differentiated in the market and really candidly a delightful product experience early on in our journey, right? Which isn't necessarily always common. Like it takes time to build great product, and it's taken us time, but I know we've had a good early run with this. Here's the deal. I obviously understand the problem that we're solving for at Document Crunch. I've never built a product before. And there was two paths to go down, right? You could go find the smartest, best technology people and engineers out there that have done all kinds of crazy stuff. But what's baked into the Document Crunch DNA, it starts with me, but it certainly goes directly into the product experience, is this empathy for building for our industry. And, I've been in this game now for a little while. I think that's probably pretty unique to us. I would challenge you all to go ask around, where do you have teams that have that soup to nuts empathy for the industry? Not because, we're focused on construction, but before this, we were just a bunch of engineers who were doing other stuff. No, if you look at our team, and this is why I wanted Trent on here, soup to nuts. This is a team that has been built to build and be empathetic for the problems that we're solving for and the personas that are using our product. And if you want to know what makes us successful, it's that. And it's not just, by the way, even the product now. I mean, we've got two guys on our sales team that were project managers who literally came to us and said, this was the worst thing that I did. As a project manager, having to deal with the contract, I have to be on this team. We have two sales, our sales leader came from, started in PlanGrid 10 years ago and worked his way all the way up through Autodesk in the construction cloud. My point is that this entire team, this isn't some cute team that saw the construction industry as an industry that's ripe for disruption and wrote some business thesis on it in their B school and found some folks that were coding in a garage and were come try and help me. No, these are all people here. The crunchers are super passionate about our industry. And if you want to know why we're successful, that's why. If you want to know why we're best positioned to be successful in the future, that's why. The minute that we start getting outside of our roots and start becoming non-empathetic to the industry will be the day that I won't be at Document Crunch anymore, because I don't really care about technology, but I do care about this problem that we're solving for. I am deeply passionate about this industry and making it better. And it doesn't end with me. You got my operating partner right here who will tell you that every single person on our team shares that. And that's why we are important. And that's why, frankly, we will continue to be sustainable in the long run, because that will never leave our DNA, that passion to solve problems for our industry.
Very good.
Thanks, John.
I want to mention something. So Trent, you and it's obvious aside from your answer about ChatGPT and stuff like that, but building a product in the AI space, obviously you have to maintain a level of defensibility against some of the big players and at the rate at which AI is being developed. So how do you guys maintain that?
Well, I think once again, kind of coming back to our roots, I mean, we have always built with construction in mind. So, I mean, we've spent a lot of time making sure that we have a resilient view on how AI can be applied. But the way that I would say that the best way in my mind to view this is that as these progressions in AI continue, does our product get better every single time a progression of that AI happens? And I believe that it absolutely does. I mean, we believe that we got a really amazing moment in being able to incorporate these, what I consider to be kind of reasoning engines, reasoning machines, with these language models coming in. But we only get better as they get better. I mean, the product only gets better. And a lot of that comes from how we're building that construction knowledge into our artificial intelligence stack. And there's a lot of secret sauce that goes into that. A lot of work that we put into evaluating the quality of the output that we provide from these different AI solutions. And it all comes back to our knowledge of construction. And I think you're going to start to see, even with that, we're going to start accelerating from here. As a matter of fact, our roadmap has been accelerating, really ever since November 2023, when all of this sort of dropped on us. But I mean, we've been really in a race. Like I tell Josh, I feel like we got this unbelievable opportunity to do things on our roadmap that we never even dreamed of. So wait till you see like the multimodal capabilities that are coming down the pipeline, the things that we're going to be able to do for project teams because of this kind of construction AI knowledge base that we've built up. So from a differentiation standpoint or from a defensibility standpoint, we're getting better with each new iteration of these models are bringing new capabilities. We're able actually now to leverage this in automation through more an agent-based approach to leveraging AI that is only going to accelerate our ability to bring these compliant solutions to market. So I think we're very well positioned for that.
So on the scale from between 0 and 1, where are you with product development? Is it like 0.1 or 0.9 at this moment? And how you think about that within the on the chart perhaps, or on the scale? And sounds like, or maybe I will leave it there, and I'll follow up.
Well, maybe clarify that question a little bit for me in terms of where you're trying to get at with that.
Right. So if 1 is complete product that you can't really improve, and 0 is we just started.
Well, I actually just wrote a note to my team about this. So, Jeff Bezos put out this in his very first investor letter that he viewed Amazon as a day one company. He never wanted to be the day two company. That's when you kind of start to die, when you think you've actually figured it all out. Mm-hmm. We're very much a day one company. So I would say, from my point of view, we're at the very beginning of where we're going to go. I mean, I think we've got some, really mature and maturing product in the document intelligence space. And you're only going to see that increase, but the amount of document types and the amount of knowledge that we're going to be able to take from documents is going to only accelerate. I would say, we're in the early days of delivering on our compliance story, but I mean, we are definitely at the forefront of doing that. But I would still consider us very much a day one company. I mean, I think you're going to see so much product come out of us. The beauty of it is, and this has been historically one of the signals of success in my career, has been when the customers start pulling the product out of you. And I can't even tell you, if you were in our Slack product feedback channel, the amount of product our customers are pulling out of us that are wanting more, and they're seeing it, right? I mean, we're actually seeing our customers come in and leverage our solutions, like the ability just to chat with your contract, started pulling ridiculous amount of product out of us, and helped us understand some of the tasks, as Josh mentioned, those jobs to be done, the type of tasks that they're looking to accomplish, that they never even knew that they were capable of accomplishing. And so the further we go down from the back office to the operations team to the project teams, the more you're going to see more product get pulled out of us. So to answer your question, I would say, I think we've got some really good already mature solutions out there, but in terms of the overall vision, we're still day one. And I think as long as we maintain that mentality, I think we've got a lot of great things to build.
Yeah. So, Trent, can you tell us about some of the trends within the documentation management, and perhaps some of the technology that is facilitating the expansion, should I say, of this industry?
Yeah. So you want me to answer that more from just generally where the AI
I think
field is going?
Broadly, yeah, and perhaps what you if there's specific technologies and tools that you guys are looking at and building into part of your product development.
Yeah, I would say that probably the biggest piece of that is how do we take unstructured documents and turn them into structured information for specific workflows. One of the biggest trends and when these language models really emerged, and now even more importantly, the multimodal capabilities of these language models, not only for our ability to read text, but to actually be able to ingest and understand images. Drawings is a great example of that. How can we leverage these technologies to understand what's inside of these very complex documents, from text to images like drawings to, nasty and gnarly schedules that are incorporated and just pasted into these documents? We're now able to start getting inside these documents and turn that unstructured information into structured information. And frankly, so much is just about that piece. If we can do that, I mean, and we're building now an ingestion pipeline for all sorts of different documents, from the contracts to the specifications to the drawings, so that we can now leverage that and build that into effectively a global knowledge base for the project and across the project portfolio. So I see that big piece and the technology advancements that are happening only helping kind of accelerate our product development. As we get deeper into some of the field capabilities, coming back to that multimodal capability, like for someone to be able to take a snapshot in the field of something they are concerned might actually cause a compliance event, we will now be able to incorporate that knowledge and be able to translate it back to the kind of compliance controls, if you will. Like, I mean, what should we do about this situation? How can I address this? Like, we literally will be able, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, rather than you typing in a prompt, what better way for you to do is take a picture and correlate that back to your understanding of compliance and what you need to do next. So those advancements to me are a really big deal. But I would say downstream of that, the agent-based approach to building out and leveraging AI is a huge trend that we are really latched onto, because so much comes down to automation. I mean, why should someone have to ask us to do something that we should already know needs to be done? So we're going to begin to see, you're going to start to see us not only thinking about documents, but how do we plug into project management solutions and other tools that these teams are using, so that we can understand what's occurring on that project. Imagine us being able to monitor a daily log, for example, and see when an event's coming up and be able to translate that back and automate notifying someone of a compliance event that's coming up. Hey, a notice needs to be sent. We can help you write that notice. Let's just go ahead and draft it together, right? So really augmenting the knowledge on the project and being that sort of guide by their side, like Josh likes to say, the angel on their shoulder of compliance. That's what we want to do. And a lot of these emerging technologies, from multimodal capabilities to agent-based approaches, you're going to see us start to incorporate so much of that into the solution. And that's why I was saying we're a day one company, because so much of this stuff is, who knows, it's going to come out a year from now. We're going to be like, holy crap, like that changes the game for us again. So like I said, every time, these advancements happen, they just make us better. And so I am so attuned to this. I spend so much of my time trying to stay ahead of those trends and make sure we're translating that back to our technology team. But those are some of the key ones I would say are really top of mind for me.
Maybe I could put that in like less tech speak, just because, like, again, you'll see the yin to my yang, right, with Trent. So imagine that, like, when I was sitting in house at these companies, I would get calls from people, or they'd come in my office and there'd be like oh, shit has hit the fan. What do we do? Right. And so that reminds me a lot of like the chat GPT, or like the search experience that you're hearing about with these co-pilots. It's like, oh, shit has hit the fan. I need something. What do I do? And you can get an answer back, and that's great. But let me tell you where the magic would really happen. I'd like go to the bathroom sometimes if I was able to. And I'd be walking down the hall of my office, and I would see maybe a project manager or a project executive, with a look on their face and they were looking at something. And I put my hand on their shoulder and say, hey, what are you working on? Like, you look like you're stressed. What can I help you with? And that is where we would get ahead of issues, right? And the point is, what we're thinking about with Document Crunch is, how do we replicate that? How do we get ahead of issues? So it's not just oh, I know something is wrong and I need to search. Well, come on, like ChatGPT is great for that. And there's, and there's RAG and other reasons why you would want a more narrowed experience. But like, what about the just like us following you and putting a hand on your shoulder and saying, hey, we see you're about to go down this path. We don't think you should. We're going to confidently help navigate you to the right thing at the right time. And that's the product experience that we're trying to build here at Document Crunch.
Very good.
Trent, you
Mine,
mentioned
one more question each.
Yeah, so I just want to touch briefly on the drawings. I think Trent, you mentioned earlier about maybe
Multimodal.
I added a little bit in my head as well based on previous podcasts with some other founders. But you mentioned that perhaps in the future there will be we will be able to read the drawings through the AI. Yes.
Yep.
And would you also combine this with Document Crunch ability to read the contracts and to interpret the contract? So then you would have an agent which will read the contract and read the drawings and try to make sense of all of it?
Absolutely. I mean,
And
that's ultimately where we have to go. I mean, to have a complete knowledge of the document set, if you will, or all the different, it's not, like I said, it's not even going to be documents. It's going to be where any of this information is being generated. Daily logs was just an example that I used, but like we will need to be able to kind of comprehensively bring that information together to ensure compliance.
So how far are we from this moment when we can start reading the drawings? To my knowledge, no one has done it yet.
I think we're probably a year or two down the line before you're going to start seeing meaningful progress. And I don't think it's going to come in like we're going to be able to do everything all at once. It's probably going to be reading the document, reading the drawings for very specific use cases initially, and it's just going to incrementally get better. I mean, kind of like what we're seeing with AI. It incrementally gets better. We didn't have multimodal. Now we have multimodal, and multimodal is a bit at its infancy. And I think that's kind of how you're going to see the progression of being able to understand drawings. I mean, I lived in the takeoff field for a long time, so I understand the complexity of like truly delivering a great takeoff solution. We're not going to be truly automating takeoffs. I mean, there's some solutions out there that are moving down the line. At some point, we may get to the point where we can automate 80% of the takeoff process, but we're still very early days in that. And like we may look at drawings, for example, right now we can read the text off of the drawings, but we still need to make sense of the drawing itself for specific types of use cases. And that's where I think you'll start to see us just knock off specific compliance related use cases, not try to go after like comprehensive understanding of a drawing, but more comprehensive understanding for a specific job to be done.
Okay. I just have one last one. How do you guys deal with people's trust in the response that they get out of a system? So like with AI, there's a lot of hallucinations, whatever term you want to use, that perhaps the feedback is not actually accurate. And I guess even in your case, the stakes are high. So how do you tackle that?
Yeah, let me talk with I'll talk about the business side and I'll let Trent give the technical answer. I mean, candidly, like we're the OGs in this space and we had the exact same concerns 5 years ago that we have today. And we've been able to get the industry very confident that with our brand, the Document Crunch brand, that's exactly what you get. You get confidence in a high degree of accuracy from our customer base. That's not, let me just say that like that was not an easy thing to do 5 years ago, or, I guess when we started commercially, it was like 4 years ago, a little less, but that was not an easy thing to do. And so we take that very seriously. Frankly, it probably slowed us down to go to market. It has slowed us down to go to market with certain products to ensure that we have that like defined. The whole world is changing. I know Trent has a lot of views on that, but yeah, I mean, that's what you can come to expect from Document Crunch. That's why the biggest and best contractors are using us and are public about they're using us, and not just using us because a project manager is using us, but it's why chief legal officers of these companies or CIOs of these companies are speaking up about what that Document Crunch experience is. It is a secure, a safe, and an accurate experience. And so that's something that like we take very seriously, but there's a lot of technical stuff behind that. And I'll let Trent tell you about that.
Yeah, I mean, because as Josh mentioned, we're OGs in the space. I mean, we have a lot of flexibility with what AI we leverage for different purposes. And what I mean by that is that in the case where we want to identify language within a contract with a high degree of accuracy, and by that I mean 95% of the time we're going to identify that key language, we have, traditional machine learning, natural language processing models that we have purpose built and continue to fine tune and train. So we have construction oriented, purpose built language models for high degrees of accuracy. I consider that like our rifle shot. And then we can incorporate prompting based techniques to really cast a different sort of net, or a different conceptual net around a particular, something that we want to be able to glean an insight from or pull key information from. We can route to the best solution, the best AI for that particular challenge. But when we think about how we approach our use of large language models for certain prompting based tasks, we believe in the trust but verify. We have built a lot of tooling to evaluate the quality of the responses that we provide, but we also cite our sources. We don't literally, in any response that we provide, we're specifically citing where that information came from, so that you can jump right into those areas, into that document, into that language that we ultimately help generate that answer from. And we feel like that's a really important user experience that we have to provide, because even if we feel very strongly that we're providing high accuracy, we know every project's a snowflake, all the documentation's a snowflake, and we want to make sure that we're providing good, not only evaluating and us feeling like we're providing high quality answers, but also giving our customers the tools that they need to dive in and verify that they're getting a high quality answer as well. So I think that's one type of sort of user experience that we're delivering that we think is really important, but there's all sorts of those that I think you're going to see emerge over time as well, but those are key.
Cool. Okay. Okay, guys, we should wrap this up. But one last quick fun question for you both. Josh, one word to describe Trent, and Trent, one word to describe Josh.
One word to describe Trent would be competitive.
Trent?
With Josh, I would say tenacious. So it kind of goes, but I would say really with Josh, tenacious empathy, if you will. It is really one of the big things with Josh that I think anybody that's worked with him will know is that he'll tell you, even though it pains me because I'm the technologist, he doesn't care about the technology. And I think that's absolutely true. I think he has a lot of empathy for the industry. And I think that he has a tenacious desire to address those problems. And so while I'm very competitive, Josh is very tenacious and empathetic. And I think it actually very much is a good yin and yang to how we approach the industry.
It's a good combo.
Josh, last one. Just tell us where people can find out more about Document Crunch, and you mentioned a framework. What do we call it? Playbook.
Blueprint. The blueprint. Blueprint. Yeah. Look, if you want to learn more about Document Crunch and you're in this industry, just look up. Take your head out of the sand. We've gotten to a point now where plenty of folks are working with us. We're around at all the major industry events. We've got a great team. Happy to engage with you on LinkedIn. You can find Trent or I on LinkedIn. You can go to documentcrunch.com for all the information. But we're here. We're here. We're not just here to sell. We're here to help. We want to engage in the discussion. We want to know what jobs to be done you need help with. We want to know where you think our solutions are falling short. And of course, we want you to love what we're also building. But we're around, and you can really find us anywhere. Trent and I are both very responsive. We want to stay engaged. We want to stay a part of the industry discussion. And that's also why forums like this we find to be awesome to get on, so that, the industry can know who we are and what we're about. And you can find us really anywhere.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys.